Welcome back to Ben Keenan Just Can't Stop Talking. We are here with another week full of things that happened so that you could be a little bit informed about a lot of stuff. In case you haven't seen it yet, I posted another episode yesterday where I did a deep dive into the Trump cabinet choices that he's been releasing over the past 2 weeks. It's like 45 minutes long, but it covers like 56 different people. So if you're interested in all about what the next 4 years might look like under a Trump administration, I would recommend going and giving that a watch or a listen, just because I literally cover anything that you need to know. It's like a 101 to a 301 crash course of the crazy, but also the regular that you probably just have overlooked because nobody really gives a shit about who's running the deputy chief of staff of communications and personnel department, you know. But without further ado, we're jumping into the countdown of the top 10 things that happened this last week, starting with number 10. Right-wing, I think I'll call her a podcaster, Candace Owens officially got banned from entering New Zealand just after a couple weeks ago, she was banned from entering Australia. So in case you don't know who Candace Owens is, she is a far right-wing political commentator that has really rose to prominence over the past few years. I think she used to be on the Daily Wire network, which is Ben Shapiro's network. There was a falling out between her and Ben Shapiro because he is Jewish and she is extremely anti-Semitic. That actually is the reason that she was denied entrance into Australia in the first place. So basically the reason she's banned from New Zealand is the exact same reason she's banned from Australia. If you've heard that news already, this might not be a surprise to you, but she had a visa application into both countries in order to go to speaking engagements. But because she had been banned from a different country, her visa was refused in New Zealand because that was kind of already like, hey, if Australia's not letting you in, we're not letting you in either. Well, if you're curious why Australia rejected the visa, it's kind of on the same page as the Ben Shapiro anti-Semitism stuff, where she actually had remarks where she denied Nazi medical experimentation on Jews in concentration camps during World War II. You know, that's not great. That's giving revisionist history, which we don't subscribe to in this space right here. That's not the shit that we fuck with. We also don't fuck with Candace Owens in general. I think she's just not a good person. I'm glad I've held that belief for a very long time because you can clearly see what she says online. She also just really traffics, and this is not the reason she was, not allowed into New Zealand or Australia, but she really traffics in kind of the far right Firestorm brand. She opposes Black Lives Matter, even though she is a Black woman herself. She opposes feminism, even though she is a woman herself. She opposes vaccines and she opposes immigration. So overall, you can just tell that her attitude is sour. And I can't remember how long ago, but I believe she actually used to be on the left. You probably should realize that there's a lot more money in being a talking head for Republicans. And it's very, very clear when people make that shift from the left to far right pipeline. You shouldn't be surprised that that happens anymore. It is 2024 after all. That happens all the time. So just to clarify and put all of this in a nice little bow, New Zealand did not technically not allow her in because of her statements. What they said is that she was refused an entertainer's work permit for New Zealand on the ground that visas legally cannot be granted to those who have been excluded from another country. This came from a spokesperson for the agency over in New Zealand because she was excluded from Australia for the anti-Semitic comments that she had. New Zealand says, well, they excluded you. We're going to exclude you too, but we're not going to have to give you a reason why. Number 9, the Menendez Brothers aunts. Menendez Brothers aunts, those are a lot of Z's and S's in there, begged the judge who was overseeing their upcoming trial in January to release them post-haste, pretty much. So I haven't seen, I think it's the Netflix show Monsters that kind of gave the story of the Menendez brothers. I know the story of it, obviously, it's a real life situation. From what I remember, it is a very long time since I've actually had a conversation about the Menendez brothers, because once again, I didn't see the show, so who am I discussing this with? From what I remember, it's these two brothers killed their parents because they were being sexually assaulted by the dad, I think. So according to Rolling Stone, Lyle and Eric, who were sentenced to life without parole in the 1990s for the murder of their parents, could potentially be up for parole, but the fate is in the hands of a new DA. And this is where the aunts came out publicly to ask the judge to release them. The original trial to discuss the release was actually supposed to be December 11th, so in 2 weeks, but they pushed it out to January 30th with the judge saying, I'm not ready to go forward, explaining that he still had 17 boxes of material to read through. true. He said a second issue was the election of a new district attorney in Los Angeles County. Quote, out of respect for the new administration coming in, I want the new administration to be able to go through the documents and have their say. So the parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, Kitty, the mom's 92-year-old sister, Joan Anderson Vandermolen, testified that she wants her nephews released. She said the brothers were molested by their father, right?
I should never have been in such a situation.
Mark.
What can a kid do when its father's... Oh, I can't stand it.
35 years is a long time.
It's time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we know, like I said earlier, so basically they were charged with killing their parents on the back of being molested. Obviously, this is something that is going to stay in the news, especially with the prominence after the Netflix show came out. And I believe it was a Ryan Murphy show, so he was really interested in this as well. You know that there's going to be updates, and obviously come January when we know more, I will let you know. Number 8, Donald Trump's transition team for the cabinet has said that several nominees for his cabinet have received active bomb threats. So this happened on Tuesday night as well as Wednesday, and the FBI said that they were aware of numerous bomb threats and swatting incidents. Swatting is when you basically are saying, like, there's something that's going to happen in this house. I have a bomb strapped to me, whatever it might be. The FBI is then like, your house is swatted by the FBI. There's a group of people that come upon the house and try to like stop you from using a bomb or whatever, right? So instead of being a bomb like threat where you say, hey, I've left one there, you say, I actually have one here. So it's more of like a come to me, but the incident is, say this happened to Joe down the street. It's somebody who was a bad actor calling in to the police or the FBI and saying, I'm Joe down the street, even though it's clearly not Joe. It's just, somebody anywhere else. I'm Joe down the street and I've got a bomb strapped to me. That would be where the FBI would get involved. That's what swatting is. Basically, you're sending the FBI to the person's house. Yes. So the threats were made against at least 9 different people who Trump chose as part of his cabinet, including the Departments of Defense, Housing, Agriculture, and Labor, as well as his pick for the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. So there are a lot of people within this group that come from different parts of the country. For example, the Secretary of Labor is based out of Oregon, where the U.S. ambassador for the United Nations, Elise Stefanik, she is out of New York because she's a congresswoman there. Trump's new press secretary, but also the campaign transition team spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt, said that Trump appointees were, quote, targeted in violent, un-American threats to their lives and those who live with them. She said law enforcement acted quickly to ensure the nominees' safety. Quote, with President Trump as our example, dangerous acts of intimidation and violence will not deter us. Interestingly enough, there have been statements from people basically saying they will not stop us. They will not deter us. So up until the point of me recording this, no one has been named as the perpetrator of this. So the interesting thing to me is the exact same shit that we go through every single time this happens is that it is they are trying to intimidate us. They are trying to stop us, with the understanding in hush-hush terms that when a Republican MAGA person is saying they always mean Democrats. Without exception. It's never somebody who is just, nonpartisan, crazy person who's trying to cause chaos. For example, think of all the assassination attempts that Donald Trump had. It was proven that it was Republican voters multiple times, but they kept coming out and saying they are trying to kill him. They are trying to stop him, with the understanding that Democrats would be blamed for this. And it was not a Democrat either of those times. It is just something that they do to stir more shit in the country and keep us divided over shit like this. I am sitting here today saying, stop doing bomb threats. Stop swatting people's houses. Those are fucked up, dangerous things to do, but we don't know who did it. And I think we need to stop jumping to conclusions because you don't know who these people are going to be. If it is a Democrat, okay, that's horrible. If it's a Republican, that's equally horrible, but stop using this to try to spur up more emotion for your side when this is bad regardless of whoever the fuck side is happening to. The FBI put out a statement that said we take all potential threats seriously and, as always, encourage members of the public to immediately report anything they consider suspicious to law enforcement. There you go. People from across all aisles denounced it. The FBI is looking into it. Nobody got hurt, but it still sucks. So the American political system, everyone. Okay, number 7. Singer, rapper, artist Flo Milli announced that she's pregnant. She posted a picture of her with a big old baby bump, and all it says is Flo mommy shit, which is funny because if you don't follow Flo Milli, there are the beginning of her song go, Flo Milli shit. After the Flo Mommy shit tweet, she added, I can't even see my coochie no more. That's crazy. So she's super, super pregnant. Earlier this month, however, she posted an Instagram clip previewing a song which was sampling T-Pain's I'm in Love with a Stripper. Fans noticed in part of the video, which was a man rubbing what appeared to be a baby bump. She later addressed the pregnancy rumors, saying that she was bloated at the time. Quote, damn, I can't be bloated. She said, I can't be bloated. Turns out to be pregnant. I don't know whether or not, and it doesn't say here in any of the articles I've seen, whether or not she actually knew she was pregnant at that time or actually just thinking she was bloated. But if a man is rubbing your belly, either he's trying to rub out a fart or you got a baby in there. There's no third option. Number 6, the word demure has officially become dictionary.com's word of the year. You remember the word demure? It was everywhere this year, which was started by influencer, TikToker Jules LeBron. Very demure, very mindful, very cutesy.
You see how I do my makeup for work? Very demure, very mindful. I don't come to work with a green cut crease. I don't look like a clown when I go to work. I don't do too much. I'm very mindful while I'm at work. See how I look very presentable? The way I came to the interview is the way I go to the job. A lot of you girls go to the interview looking like Marge Simpson and go to the job looking like Patty and Selma. Not demure. I'm very modest. I'm very mindful. You see my shirt? Only a little chichi out, not my chocho. Be mindful of why they hired you. Here's your reality check, diva. What's the name you'd like me to make it out to?
Between January and September of this year, so of 2024, dictionary.com says they saw a 1,200% increase in the usage in digital web media and had 200 times more searches on dictionary.com for the word demure. They define the word as, quote, characterized by shyness and modesty, but the word took on a whole new life through internet fame, which is basically a quiet confidence is the way that people are using it now. Along with demure as the top choices, dictionary.com also announced their word of the year shortlist, which includes brain rot, which is basically if you are online too much and you use words like demure or brain rot in your everyday life, you have brain rot. If you talk in memes from a video, you have brain rot. It is something you have. Brat was also on the list, which comes from Charlie XCX's album Brat, and where she would like call Kamala Harris Brat, or it was Brat Summer. It's basically, once again, a confidence, it's an energy, it's a party girl 365 type of mood. Brat is brat, something is brat, or someone is brat. But it is not the same thing as being a brat or being bratty. It's all on its own. Extreme weather, Midwest nice, and weird were all on there. I would assume extreme weather was probably coming from the multiple hurricanes that were ravaging the East and the South. Midwest nice, probably something along the same lines as weird, which come from Tim Walz, who was Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate. Last year, dictionary.com chose hallucinate as its word of the year, specifically in the context of artificial intelligence. This year, though, their top choices lean more towards words of high internet popularity as opposed to just a concept. My word of the year was actually period. Number 5, Donald Trump announced that once he is in office, he's going to impose a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico and Canada and an additional 10% tariff on all imports from China. So I know there were massive internet search increases for the word tariff or searches saying what is a tariff or who pays a tariff. So basically, let me give this to you. So a tariff is the amount of money, say, $100, and you're putting a 25% tariff on it. It's a tax that the importing country hypothetically would be paying, right? So say something's coming from Canada or Mexico because it's 25%, that costs $100. It would now cost $125. However, it is not actually paid for by that country, which is what Donald Trump is trying to tell you it is, which is a bold-faced lie. It's paid by the people who are bringing it into the country. So it's paid by the companies, right? So say Walmart is importing something from Mexico that costs $100. There's a 25% tax on that. So it's now going to cost $125. Walmart is not going to lose that money, but it still costs the same. So they are going to increase the price of your sweatshirt that costs $100 to $125. So you, the consumer, are now paying the tariff. The tariff is never paid by the country that it's meant to harm. The tariff is never paid by the company. It is paid by us, the consumer, in the form of a tax. tax. So he announced that he was going to be implementing this to Mexico and Canada in order to curb immigration and fentanyl import. That is actually not how that happens, but I'm going to read you his statement because you deserve to hear what kind of bullshit the incoming president has to say every time he says something bullshitty. Quote, as everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border. On January 20th, as one of many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. There is almost the identical statement on his 10% increase on tariffs to China. I'll power through this. I have had many talks with China about the massive amount of drugs, in particular fentanyl, being sent into the United States, but to no avail. Representatives of China told me that they would institute their maximum penalty, that of death, for any drug dealers caught doing this. But unfortunately, they never followed through, and drugs are pouring into our country, mostly through Mexico, at levels never seen before. Until such time as they stop, we will be charging China an additional 10% tariff above any additional tariffs on all their many products coming into the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, really quick, between Mexico and Canada and China, 45% of the things that we import into the US comes from those three countries alone. So on almost half of the goods we have in the US, there is now going to be a 10 to 25% increase in cost. I thought Donald Trump was elected to lower the price of eggs, but instead he's going to make your tomatoes and avocados and tech products and pharmaceuticals more expensive. I don't know about you. There are very few people that are going to be happy with this. Nobody understood, not nobody. Many people were warning about this. Many people did not understand that the tariffs that Trump said he was going to impose are not going to impact wealthy billionaires like him. It is going to hurt the most the working class people. This is going to be a 10 to 25% increase on prices. Every single thing that comes through, because it's not just, I'm going to implement this on these types of products, tomatoes. Okay, fine. Then avocados wouldn't be more expensive, right? Or I'm going to put it on clothing coming in from China. Okay, great. Tech products wouldn't be more expensive. He put this on all imports. Every single thing that these countries are bringing into the US is now going to have a tax on top of the price that we are going to have to pay. Now, I know this might be a throwback to something I said a while ago on this podcast, but Elon Musk, if you remember, said somewhere on a post some bullshit about people might have to be uncomfortable for a while before we can truly make America great again and fix the economy. Something tells me that he's not going to be uncomfortable. He's worth over $300 billion. It's going to be those of us who work for a living who are going to be extremely uncomfortable because we're the ones who are going to have to deal with this tax that Donald Trump is putting on everything. So we'll see how this all pans out. And in response to Donald Trump's stupidity, Mexico's new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, the first woman president from Mexico, suggests that they would impose their own tariffs in retaliation against Trump tariffs. So anything that the United States imports into Mexico, we now have to pay for via tariffs as well. So people are just getting screwed left, right, and center because of Donald Trump's stupidity. Classic, classic, classic. Claudia Sheinbaum said, quote, one tariff would be followed by another in response, and so on until we put at risk common businesses. She was referring to the US automakers that have plants on both sides of the border, US and Mexico. She said that Mexico suffered from an influx of weapons smuggled in from the United States, and she said the flow of drugs, quote, is a problem of public health and consumption in your country's society, period. Sheinbaum also criticized US spending on weapons, saying the money should instead be spent regionally to address the problems of migration. Quote, if a percentage of what the United States spends on war were dedicated to peace and development, that would address the underlying causes of migration. I am already obsessed with Claudia Sheinbaum. I don't remember the former president of Mexico's name, but but he was basically kind of like buddy-ish with Donald Trump, but not in like one of those dangerous ways. Claudia Sheinbaum is fully saying that she is going to butt heads with Donald Trump. She's not taking his shit, which is great because we need people who are going to stand up against him and not allow him to be the bull in the china shop that he wants to be and that some people want him to be. We need big kids on the stage. We need some adults in the room because clearly the United States will not be that adult for the next 4 years, so that we can hold together our importance on a global stage 4 years from now, where we hopefully will then have a Democrat elected in office and can be an adult in the room once again. She said on Tuesday that Mexico has actually done a lot to stem the flow of migrants, noting that, quote, caravans of migrants no longer reach the border. So they're stopping them before they get there. So Donald Trump is just making shit up, which gets spun onto Fox News and scares the regular people. There are migrants coming, but there's no caravan of migrants. So after all of this back and forth, Trump and Claudia Sheinbaum apparently got on the phone and chatted it out. He tweeted, quote, just had a wonderful conversation with the new president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo. She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. We also talked about what can be done to stop the massive drug inflow into the United States and also U.S. consumption of these drugs. It was a very productive conversation. And then, of course, you have right-wing nuts all over the internet saying one phone call, that's how it's done. He's not even president yet, and he's shutting down the border, and he's stopping the drug cartels. Well, of course, in response to that, Claudia Sheinbaum actually came out with her own statement refuting Trump's border claims, saying that Mexico's position is not to close the border. She said, quote, in our conversation with President Trump, I explained to him the comprehensive strategy that Mexico has followed to address the migration phenomenon, respecting human rights. Thanks to this, migrants and caravans are assisted before they arrive at the border. We reiterate that Mexico's position is not to close borders, but to build bridges between governments and between peoples. Number 4, Billboard officially named Beyonce the greatest pop star of the 21st century. I love that. So Billboard is already telling us what we've already known. At least I've already known. Beyonce is the greatest pop star of the 21st century. She's been around for like 20 years. And in case you were curious who else made the cut, I'm sure you could guess a few of them. Number 10, we have Adele. Number 9, Ariana Grande. Of course, I think that if this was done post-Wicked, she would bump up higher than number 9. Number 8 is Justin Bieber. If you remember, there was something that Hailey Bieber tweeted out that she was like, this is bullshit, or Billboard, you're trash for this, or something like this, where it's like, she just hates that he's so low. I'm sure in her heart he's number 1, but there's no way Justin Bieber is the number 1 pop star of the 21st century. Number 7, Kanye West. Hate that, but understand why it's there. 6, Britney Spears. I understand that. She has not been around. I mean, she's been around for a long time, like Beyonce long, but she has not been around recently. So I'm a little surprised she's as high as she is. Number 5, Lady Gaga. Number 4, Drake. Number 3, Rihanna, which I think is kind of hilarious also, like Britney Spears, where she is so high, but she hasn't put any music out. So it's like, why does she need to put new music out? Because people are still going to listen to her old stuff. Number 2, Taylor Swift, obviously. And number 1 is Beyonce. And all I need now is for Beyonce to, hurry up. Let's get the Cowboy Carter tour on the road. I've got money that I want to spend there as opposed to on some nonsense I don't need, because I do need to be at that tour immediately. Number 3, it appears that Ben Affleck is dating Jennifer Garner again. And you know what? The thing about this man, he's messy, and I love it. Yes, he did just get divorced from Jennifer Lopez. And now he is, quote, according to New York Post, cozying up to ex-wife Jennifer Garner. He loves a Jennifer, and he loves getting back together with exes. This is like messy 101. According to the New York Post, Ben Affleck appeared cheerful on Thanksgiving with the Jennifer that's not his most recent ex, Jennifer Lopez, messy. The 52-year-old Oscar winner was spotted cozying up to his first ex-wife, Jennifer Garner, on Thursday while volunteering with Midnight Mission in downtown LA. There are 2 options here, because obviously they're not like holding hands or kissing or anything. They're just kind of like together, cozying up. But this could be a couple things. 1, maybe they're mature and they said, hey, you know what? We want to get back in each other's lives more frequently because of the children. Or maybe they are getting back together, which we'll see. And it's funny. It's funny. Number 2, it was reported that the U.S. brokered a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah in the ongoing war. So in case you didn't know, Hezbollah is the organization based out of Lebanon, where Hamas is the organization based out of Palestine. This was announced by by the Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and said it was set to start Wednesday morning. He announced it on Tuesday, so that would have been last Wednesday for those of you listening to this. Of course, it is considered a permanent ceasefire. However, Bibi Netanyahu also said, quote, with the full understanding of the United States, we are preserving full military freedom of action. If Hezbollah breaks the agreement and seeks to arm itself, we will attack. I mean, classic Bibi Netanyahu loves to be, big military presence anywhere that he possibly fucking can. But for today, we celebrate a small win. Joe Biden tweeted, today I have good news to report from the Middle East. I have spoken to the prime ministers of Lebanon and Israel, and I am pleased to announce they have accepted the United States' proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Like I said, we will accept the small wins when we can get them. Not long after this was announced, the agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, Hamas actually released an official statement saying that they were interested in a deal to end the war after Hezbollah entered into a ceasefire with Israel. I was just scrolling through and I wanted to make sure that everything was up to date. At the time of me recording this, there is no further movement on the Hamas inquiry into wanting to enter a ceasefire as well. Obviously, this is a massive geopolitical moment. I will let you know when we have more information. And number one this week, Drake has been running around suing a whole bunch of people over Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. There was a whole beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Other people were involved as well, but it was mainly those two where they were releasing diss tracks back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It eventually ended, more or less, after Kendrick Lamar released Not Like Us. It is objectively a good song, but basically he called Drake a pedophile. The song is everywhere. Kendrick Lamar is playing the halftime show at the Super Bowl this year. It was played, I think, at one of his concerts like 4 or 5 times back to back. So after all of that, it was massive. Drake took a big L. He has filed 2 lawsuits. So the first lawsuit is against Universal Music Group, UMG, where they are accused of illegally boosting Kendrick Lamar's track on Spotify. The new filing claimed that UMG potentially funneled payments to iHeartRadio as part of a pay-to-play scheme in order to promote the song on the radio. In the lawsuit, Drake also gave a little bit of insight into the fact that he was having issues with UMG. He said that Kendrick's song falsely accused him of being a, quote, certified pedophile and a, quote, predator, but they chose to release it anyway. His lawyer says UMG could have refused to release or distribute the song or required the offending material to be edited and or removed. But UMG chose to do the opposite. UMG designed, financed, and then executed a plan to turn Not Like Us into a viral mega hit with the intent of using the spectacle of harm to Drake and his businesses to drive consumer hysteria and, of course, massive revenues. That plan succeeded, likely beyond UMG's wildest expectations. Sounds like the second lawsuit was also against UMG, where Drake accused the music giant of defamation, claiming that they could have halted the release of a song that falsely accused him of being a sex offender. So it sounds like a lot of this is you boosted the song everywhere. You called me a pedophile and a sex offender when that's false. So I'm calling defamation. Obviously, this will all play out in court because UMG has a ton of money, but so does Drake. Both of them have a ton of money. It'll be very, very interesting to see what all comes to light here, because right here today is my thought process. If UMG knowingly spread false information about Drake and it is proven that Drake is innocent, UMG will have a massive black eye and people are going to be suing left, right, and center. However, if Drake goes forward with these lawsuits, UMG is obviously going to pull out the big guns and look for people who can corroborate the lyrics from Kendrick Lamar's song. If it is found that Drake has done anything sketchy, especially with a minor, he's done. Why did he choose to do the lawsuit now? It's kind of, instead of when it immediately came out and you're like, now I'm being defamed, it kind of died down. The song is no longer, this big. It's been big since the summer. You had months that you sat on this. I don't know how anything's gonna shape out. However, those are pretty much the 2 options. And that's it. Another week of the top 10 news just for you so that you can be a little bit smarter about a lot of things. Per usual, be sure to like, subscribe, follow me on wherever you're able to find this podcast. I think it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can listen to it on YouTube if you want to see my face instead of just hearing my voice. I'm also on social media. I am on Instagram at Ben Keenan. I'm using Threads over there as well, so you can just click through that profile. I'm also on TikTok at I've Been Traveling. Until next time, when I can bring you more things that happened during the week, because per usual, things are always happening. Thanks.